Time now for Panorama. Just a warning, this programme contains scenes you may find upsetting.
Tonight we investigate how China covered up the scale of its coronavirus crisis.
Why didn't they tell the rest of the world earlier what was happening and how dangerous it was?
The doctors and scientists prevented from telling the truth.
Instead of listening to its own people, it has silenced them, and we are all paying the price.
We hear from those who've investigated the outbreak.
I know how efficient the virus was spreading. It can go with people by flights from one city to thousands of miles away.
And a government that insists it was open and transparent throughout.
There's no cover-up at all.
With warnings this crisis may yet get worse, we ask, can China be trusted if it happens again?
This may just be a dress rehearsal. We need to be ready for what could potentially be even a worse pandemic.
Chinese health authorities are still working to identify the virus behind a pneumonia outbreak in the central city of Wuhan.
7 months on, the human cost of the coronavirus pandemic is still rising. Worldwide, 600,000 dead, nearly 16 million infected, the global economy in meltdown. So how did we get here?
This is an anti-terrorism door. It's designed to resist drilling for several hours and is also technically explosion-proof.
Dr. Stephen Baker works with some of the world's most dangerous viruses. He spent 12 years in Southeast Asia, studying how they jump from animals to humans. Early theories about how this coronavirus made the leap include a leak from a lab, a scientist doing field work, a hunter infected in the wild.
This virus appeared to be circulating in animal populations, quite possibly bats, with another mammalian intermediate, pangolins, has been mooted.
At the start of the outbreak, China blamed a market in Wuhan, illegally selling exotic animals.
Potentially what happened is that there was a transmission event within the local market, which then went on to cause the epidemic and then went on to cause the pandemic.
Last December, market traders started turning up at local hospitals with a mystery pneumonia that didn't respond to treatment. On the 27th, lab results from a patient sample revealed a coronavirus, closely resembling the virus that caused China's last health crisis, SARS.
I joined as a disease detective, and so I chased down epidemics all over the world.
Dr. Ali Khan spent much of his career at the US Centers for Disease Control.
Ebola, Rift Valley fever, Congo-Crimean hemorrhagic fever, monkeypox, SARS.
In late 2002, the SARS virus jumped from bats to civet cats in a food market in southern China, ultimately killing nearly 800 people worldwide. Chinese officials hid cases, censored doctors, and withheld information from the world for 4 months. Dr. Khan was sent to the region to help.
Clearly, there was a lack of transparency. Without a doubt, if they had shared that they had this atypical pneumonia and allowed international investigation, there probably would have been fewer cases and likely fewer deaths.
After SARS, the World Health Organization strengthened early warning rules. Suspected epidemics must now be reported within 24 hours. On the 1st of January this year, the WHO asked China about the mystery pneumonia in Wuhan. China confirmed it 2 days later and took a further 6 days to reveal that it was dealing with a novel coronavirus.
I I've been surprised by how even the Chinese Communist Party has been so secretive about it, given the experience of SARS. And there will have been, frankly, thousands of people who will have lost their lives or lost their livelihoods because China didn't behave as it had promised it would behave in the international health regulations much earlier.
Yet more serious than delaying reporting of the initial outbreak, China then hid evidence that the virus could be spread by people.
They said there was no reason to suspect the virus was transmitted through humans and no medical personnel had been infected.
Doctors on the front line didn't agree. They tried to alert each other. A post from Li Wenliang at Wuhan Central Hospital went viral, warning of a disease he thought was SARS. Within hours, Dr. Li was summoned to a meeting by his hospital and ordered not to discuss the outbreak.
The clinicians knew that the cluster was not limited to people only from the seafood market. So that was proof positive at that point that there was person-to-person transmission.
China's doctors were trying to get ahead of the virus, but they were silenced. Dr. Li and others forced to sign police confessions that they were spreading misinformation.
Police have warned that fabricating rumors and spreading them are against the law and will not be tolerated.
Professor Li Lanjuan was a key advisor to the Chinese government in the early stages of the outbreak. At the end of December, Wuhan told doctors they weren't allowed to discuss the virus on social media. Was that a mistake?
To announce its contagiousness, if it's not yet confirmed, would cause public panic. Therefore, we must be responsible to the public and ascertain the facts first. Only after that could we release the information to the public. I don't think people outside understand this.
In China, public order is a priority. Fear of unrest often drives officials to withhold information, play down risks, and delay action.
You know, in any country, when you have something, the virus, which is dangerous to people's health, when something unknown, there might be a panic. You can't say this has come up, since on the official channel, you know, we report through the normal channel, but on this, we need to make sure that there should be no panic.
It's a very fragile state, and I don't think people quite realize how fragile the Communist Party regime fears itself to be. Public panic is only one step removed from public protest and public disorder.
On the 12th of January, in the city of Shenzhen, a family was diagnosed with the new coronavirus by eminent Dr. Huo Kyung-yuan. Only some of them had been to Wuhan. Professor Yuan was one of the scientists who identified SARS 17 years ago. He knew family clusters signaled human transmission and that a pandemic was now a real danger.
We are able to isolate the coronavirus.
I have the experience of diagnosing cases in Shenzhen, and I know how efficient the virus was spreading, and I know that it is acquired from hospital, and I know that it can go with people by flights from one city to thousands of miles away.
But China didn't tell its public or the rest of the world for another critical week in which the virus was free to spread inside the country and beyond.
Thailand has reported the first case of the Wuhan coronavirus found outside of China.
Once there is a case abroad, then the whole propaganda has to deal with that. It's going to come out. If it's going to start spreading abroad, then the game changes.
On the 14th of January, Beijing convened an urgent teleconference. According to a leaked memo reported months later by the Associated Press, health bosses nationwide were warned that human-to-human transmission was possible. The crisis was likely to become a major public health event, and China must prepare for a pandemic. But on state TV, top health officials played down the risk.
We now know that on the 14th of January, the head of the National Health Commission was very pessimistic, but it was not shared with the Chinese public and it was not shared with the world. Why not?
Such a mistake did not occur. It was during this conference when all provinces learned of this disease. Before that, it was not widely known. Once everyone knew about it, all hospitals and disease control bodies sprang into action. There were never any secrets about it.
The new rules put in place after SARS say that all relevant information must be provided to the World Health Organization. China was clearly worried, but the WHO was left to tweet Beijing's official line.
Chinese authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission.
Were you, as many have said, effectively a propaganda arm for the message that China wanted to get out into the world?
I do not believe that the World Health Organization was part of a cover-up or did not do its work to actually get information and give this to other member states to keep their population safe. And I think we were very transparent to publicize the information that we had, and we did this repeatedly.
It was now mid-January, and China was gearing up for its biggest annual festival, Chinese New Year. It's worth billions to the economy. In Wuhan alone, 5 million people were about to leave town to see friends and family. The government didn't stop them.
They need to tell the people of Wuhan, but they don't. They allow people to travel to and fro to what they already know is the scene of a spreading epidemic. But at that stage, the line is still the same. We're under control. There are very few more cases.
Now this is the equivalent of maybe our Christmas period, and it's the largest human movement seasonally we see on the planet. Around 3 billion passenger trips made.
Professor Andrew Tatum has been studying mobile phone data from the Wuhan area.
So each one of these orange dots is a movement out of Wuhan to another part of China, and the size of the dots relate to the number of people. And those green dots are people coming from other areas into Wuhan. And we can see as we're up to 12th, 13th of January, far more outflows than there are inflows. And as we get to now 15th of January, we're starting to see these numbers increase as people travel out from Wuhan for the Chinese New Year.
But people weren't just traveling in China. The virus was growing exponentially, and this globally connected city was now a giant incubator. Its residents unwittingly spreading the virus worldwide.
It's a major transport hub. It's the biggest centre for universities and students that are famously mobile as well. So there's a lot of factors here that came into play that brought almost like a perfect storm together.
Until the 18th of January, China admitted to only 45 cases in the whole country. But the true number in Wuhan alone was closer to 4,000, according to British researchers. This pandemic could no longer be hidden. A team of high-profile Chinese scientists was sent to Wuhan. Their evidence would give Beijing the cover to finally tell the truth about human-to-human transmission.
The SARS expert, Professor Yuan, who diagnosed the Shenzhen cluster, was on the team. The team quizzed Wuhan officials about the market where Beijing said the virus had first jumped to humans.
They told me that the place was very dirty. A lot of animal fecal material, extremely foul-smelling, rats running around.
The market had been closed nearly 3 weeks earlier and completely disinfected. Samples had been taken, but not from all the animals. The team worried that if the virus had jumped to humans here, crucial evidence was now lost.
When we went to the Huanan seafood market, of course there was nothing to see because the market was cleaned already. So you may say that the crime scene is already disturbed. Because the seafood market was cleared, we cannot identify the animal host. We're just giving the virus to human.
The team leader later said local officials had been unwilling to tell the truth about the number of infections. If they'd done their work better, human-to-human transmission could have been understood sooner. Professor Yuan agrees the problem was in Wuhan, not Beijing.
I do suspect that they have been doing some cover-up locally at Wuhan. The local officials who are supposed to immediately relay the information has not allowed this to be done as rapidly as it should.
People lie because they're terrified of losing their jobs or worse, going to prison. People lie because they're terrified that the punishments for failure are so severe. And governments lie because they have to create a myth of invincibility in order to maintain credibility with their people.
After the inspection on the 20th of January, the head of the team announced publicly what others had been warning of for 3 weeks.
所以呢，这个现在啊，可以这么说，是肯定的有人传人的现象。
Despite this public admission, Beijing was still slow to act. Holiday travel continued.
And things really start to increase. We're now at the 20th of January, so coming towards Chinese New Year, 21st of January, and 22nd of January, and then obviously the next day, the 23rd, is when the lockdown was put in place, and suddenly on the 24th, those numbers decrease massively.
A full 9 days after Beijing warned health bosses of a coming pandemic, it now took drastic action. On the 23rd of January, the entire city of Wuhan, population 11 million, was quarantined. Across China, hundreds of millions would soon face travel restrictions. Beijing says the lockdown bought the world time, but the virus had already gone global.
South Korea has confirmed the first local case
has been confirmed here in the United States.
Singapore has confirmed its first. Japan has confirmed its first case of the Wuhan
coronavirus in the UK. The first confirmed cases here.
If there was the same interventions that were put in place on the 23rd of January, put in place on the 2nd of January, we may have seen a 95% reduction in the numbers of cases.
Locking down Wuhan on the 23rd is bolting the stable door when the virus is on its way overseas to become a pandemic across the world.
Professor Li, who'd been on the inspection team, recommended the lockdown. She says the Chinese government acted at the right time.
The lockdown was a grave decision. It was only made when we felt that the epidemic in Wuhan would threaten the entire country. So I think the timing was just right.
Zhang Lifa was in Wuhan for a leg operation. His son, Zhang Hai, had taken him to hospital there before lockdown, unaware that he was exposing his father to the dangerous virus.
He was unable to walk. In that situation, we had no other option. I made my father wear a face mask, and I also put one on.
His father developed a fever and tested positive for coronavirus.
At that time, my dad said to me, "My son, your father doesn't want to die." He said, "Please beg the doctors to save my life." That was what my father said before he lost consciousness, and it is impossible for me to forget that for the rest of my life.
Across China, the official story celebrated public solidarity and party leadership. But a handful of people defied state censorship to reveal fear, heartache, and chaos. Chen Qiushi was one of them. He uploaded videos to foreign social media platforms banned in China.
我们今年的疫情堪比03年的非典，而2次疫情的爆炸都是因为对于事实的隐瞒，对于信息的封锁，我们不能一错再错了。
大家好，我是方斌。
Another citizen journalist on the ground in Wuhan was reporting on the rising numbers of dead.
现在我数一下啊，10代，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，有8个，这么多就真的死了，这是几年？就昨天是吧？哎呦，这死人这么多。
好，谢谢大
Soon
家。
after, Fang Bin received a visit.
你开下门，你开下门。 我讲真话，我报道真话，你们抓我。私人的住宅不允许任何人。别过，别过。
The net was also closing on Chen Qiushi.
我是害怕，我前面是病毒，我后边是中国的法律和行政力量。只要我活在这个城市，我会继续做我的报道，我连死都不怕。 我怕你共产党吗？
In early February, the videos stopped. Both men vanished and have not been heard of since.
It's a very nasty regime, and it hates all the things we stand for, like a free media. And I commend all those who've been writing about this subject within China, which has required a good deal of bravery on their part.
China says fewer than 5,000 of its citizens died from Covid-19 due to the firm measures it took to detect, contain, and treat infections. But its numbers are impossible to verify.
I don't think anybody thinks that the statistics coming out of China are accurate. Clearly, politics comes into this, and the party wishes to show that it has done a far better job at containing it than it really has.
One death came to symbolize the national tragedy.
In China, there's been a huge outpouring of grief and anger at the treatment of a doctor who tried to warn the world of the dangers of the coronavirus.
34-year-old Dr. Li Wenliang, reprimanded at the start for warning about the risks, then infected by a patient and dead a month later. On his deathbed, he became a hero to many inside China and beyond.
It is a tragedy for Dr. Li and others. I respect all these people who have tried their best to avert a disaster, but unfortunately failed.
Zhang Hai's father also died. They'd never have gone to Wuhan if local officials had warned of the virus.
To bring him to Wuhan, I sent him to his death. I regret it in my heart. Because of their lies, many people, including my father, passed away. So to me, they're murderers. All their actions were criminal behavior.
On the 8th of April, China lifted Wuhan's lockdown. It says its pandemic response prevented 700,000 infections. As coronavirus continues to disrupt and devastate, experts say the risk of future pandemics is growing.
In the last 20 years, this is the fourth or fifth large outbreak of which this particular pandemic is the biggest. They are becoming more common. Economic prosperity has meant that people in these places are more likely to want to eat animal protein that's from a more exotic origin. The pressure that we're putting on animal populations and the viruses they naturally carry make it more likely they spill over into humans living in urban centres.
This may just be a dress rehearsal. We need to be ready for what could potentially be even a worse pandemic. We can't afford to do this again if we are having some countries having an outbreak and they're deciding to not share that information. There has to be consequences.
China says it shouldn't be blamed for coronavirus. It's a victim too. It's agreed to join an international inquiry into the pandemic, but only after the crisis is over.
We stand ready to come with the best experts around the world to work together with our Chinese counterparts to try to understand where this virus has come from as a basis to make the world safer as we move forward.
China continues to punish those who challenge the official line. It now says the virus didn't originate in the Wuhan market and may not have started in China at all. It took 14 years to confirm how SARS began, and we still don't have the full story about how that spread. So what hope of getting to the truth this time?
All along, we have acted with openness, transparency, and responsibility. We have provided information to the WHO and relevant countries in the most timely fashion.
Well, I think that the Chinese Communist Party will want to suppress the story for as long as possible because it doesn't match its image as a regime which justifies its brutalities by its competence.
Unless the Chinese Communist Party decides that it wishes to protect its people, then I'm afraid we're all likely to be victims of another such incident again.
China says saving lives is its #1 priority. Critics talk tough, but is there the will to get tough with a rising superpower? For now, we're left hoping that if this happens again, China does the right thing of its own accord and acts faster to better protect us all.